A Rose for Her Grave, the Randy Roth Story, is a Lifetime true story movie based on the case of Cindy Roth, aka Cynthia Baumgartner Roth, and it's also based on Ann Rule's true crime book by the same name. A Rose for Her Grave, the Randy Roth Story on Lifetime stars Rachel Stubbington, Laura Ramsey, and Colin Egglesfield. Let's talk about the plot of the movie. Filmed in West Virginia, A Rose for Her Grave is set in Washington. The Lifetime movie tells the story of Cynthia Cindy Roth, a grieving widow and single mom who's looking for love. She thinks she's found love in a man named Randy Roth, a dashing, dark, and handsome mechanic. Instead of matrimonial bliss, Cynthia Roth endures one long marital storm as she deals with the other side of Randy Roth's personality. Now, this Lifetime movie is told from the perspective of Cindy's best friend, Lori, who quickly feels that her friend's new husband has a shady past. And after Cindy's untimely demise, Lori sets out to find out the truth and to bring Randy Roth to justice. I liked this movie. I thought the movie was beautifully made. I liked all of the colors in the movie and the bright lighting. I thought the actors were fantastic, and I really got into the story. It didn't feel fast-paced like some of their movies. A Rose for Her Grave script is written by Connor Allen and Benjamin Anderson for Lifetime. Let's look at some real pictures of the real people and compare them while I'm telling you a little bit about the movie. But before I get into that research, if you would please help me get this in the algorithm by subscribing and liking the video. So the beginning of the movie begins with a haunting, dramatic scene of Cindy floating in the water. Then it takes us back. Now, you'll notice that this movie, the real story happened back in 1990. And the Lifetime movie gives it a modern twist. Cindy is a beautiful blonde single mom who's lost her husband. And then she meets Randy Roth. Now, Randy is a mechanic. He seems nice at first. He's interested in her. He's a single father, so they seem to have a lot in common. Now, the Lifetime movie portrays him as intense, especially on their first date. He seems to really like the fact that Cynthia has this beautiful home that she shares with Lori. His behavior is odd, and Cynthia Roth doesn't make too much of it, but her best friend Lori is picking it up. Her intuition is screaming that something just isn't right about him. And she was right. Just like any girlfriend would, Lori asks Cynthia about her marriage, how things are going. And of course, Cynthia reveals that everything was going fine, but they're not having any marital fun in the bedroom. Now, this is odd because they're newlyweds, and he doesn't seem to have any marital passion for her. In fact, he's too busy flirting with a particular young lady who is his friend's daughter. It's obvious to Lori that this daughter is completely in love with Randy. But again, Cynthia's intuition doesn't seem to be kicking in. Before long, things start to change. And Lori feels like a stranger in that house. And her fears are confirmed when one night she wakes up and hears Cindy screaming and finds Randy with his hands around her neck. He's in a rage. They both kick Lori out of the room. And of course, Lori is just beside herself with fear. And this almost fatal encounter doesn't seem to make Cynthia move on with her life. I mean, she's in love with Randy, and she doesn't want to give up on this marriage because she's very religious, and she, her beliefs just don't allow for her to leave her husband because of PTSD, which is what he had. She understood him because he served in the military. And so because he served in combat, he had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, since 1980, post-traumatic stress disorder has been recognized as a mental illness. And if left untreated, it can be dangerous. for the person as well as others around that person. So it's sort of important to know whether or not someone you're dating has this illness. Now, for Cindy Roth, that's her husband. She's not going anywhere. She is devoted to him, and she didn't want her friend Lori interfering. Now, after Lori moves out, Cindy is still contacting her, crying. She wants to tell her something, but she's afraid, and she doesn't want to give more details about what's really going on with him. And she is not connecting a series of strange events to her husband. Her car is being tampered with, for example, and she doesn't seem to find that strange. The next thing we see is that Lori hears that her friend Cynthia Roth is no more. She has drowned in a rafting incident at a lake. Now, Cindy can swim, so how did that happen? Randy, who doesn't seem to be concerned, explained that Cindy was outside the boat when she caught a cramp. He's hostile to Lori when she comes over to ask him what happened. And Lori gets this feeling that he did something to her friend. The scary part, too, is that Cindy's son was still living with Randy. So in the movie, Lori sets out to get Cindy's son back. She wants the son out of that house because she believes that he's living with the man who took her life. Now, her fears are confirmed once again as she starts investigating Randy's past. Now, people that knew him from the past, they had a lot to say. People from your past, they always have a lot to say. So she learned that Randy Roth was never in combat in the military. He worked in an office. And that he had a wife that Cindy didn't even know about. The real kicker in this movie is when the ex-wife comes forward and tracks Lori down to tell her that the same thing almost happened to her, that she almost passed away in a rafting excursion, that he had lured her out there, and she believed that he was trying to end her life. Now, that woman's name was Donna Clift. She divorced Randy right away. So Donna Clift didn't spend any time. She packed her things and she left. She saw the danger that she was in and she didn't waste any time getting out of there. So Lori, with this information, she is trying to interest the police into making this a murder case. You know, right now it's just an unfortunate incident, but Lori knew that wasn't true. In the movie, we see this tenacious female detective who is trying to convince this tough female prosecutor to bring Randy to justice. So they don't have any evidence, really. They don't have a lot, but they really want to move forward with it. Let's talk about the real story. So back in 1990, Cynthia Roth was 33 years old. She was a single mom. Her first husband passed away from a serious disease. And Cynthia was in grief. She was lonely. She was financially secure, but she wanted to have a man in her life. So she meets Randy at this Little League baseball game. She's working concessions, and she's told by Randy's son that she's pretty. You know, he's telling her, "My dad thinks you're very pretty." And they start talking and they hit it off. Randy seemed to be exactly what Cynthia wanted. Randy seemed to be what every woman wanted. He was handsome and romantic at the same time, which is hard to find. He seemed to be transparent. He is a single dad. She's a single mom. He revealed to her that his first wife left him and that his second wife passed away in a hiking incident. Now, that's his story to her. He seemed to really have an idea of what women wanted, and he knew how to play that. Plus, he was athletic and strong, and he was a Christian. He wrote notes to her. He was romantic. He gave her roses. Who is this man? And they say she really glowed while he was courting her. So before long, they were a couple. They were living together. They were married. They blended these families together. But after the marriage, everything changed. He became dull, uninterested, emotionally unavailable. He no longer had any interest in hanging out with the kids, playing sports. And of course, there was no romance in the bedroom. What happened? How had this marriage lost its spark so quickly while they were newlyweds? Now, this had to be traumatizing for Cynthia as a new wife. Her sons noticed it too, and it made them sad to see their mother going downhill emotionally. Randy's behavior started to become so strange. It worried them all. It wasn't just worrying, it was scary. He was aggressive and angry, and there were times when he would grab Cynthia aggressively. Her life with him downgraded. She was always put together before. Her hair was perfect. Her nails were always beautifully done, and now he isn't letting her get her nails done? He's controlling her bank funds? Getting your nails done and getting your hair done, that's a basic need that every woman has to have. I mean, this is self-care. It helps the woman emotionally. It helps the wife to maintain her high level of self-esteem. And he had taken that all away. In fact, if she had really paid attention, she would have noticed that from the time she met him, she started losing things. Things started getting taken away from her. I mean, did he even like her anymore at all? He criticized her and the boys. He treated the children as if they were in the military. And she tried to protect them, but she didn't want to walk out. She really didn't feel like she had much of a choice but to support her husband. She started to become just a shell of herself, a sad housewife who wasn't getting what she needed emotionally from her husband. Now, in 1991, Cynthia Roth and Randy Roth's marriage ends in a nightmare. Cynthia is pulled from the lake. It hasn't even been a year. Just the year before, they were bubbly and glowing and happy. Now they're pulling her from a lake. She's not responding. Doctors later informed the family that Cynthia is no more. Now, there are 2 documentaries on the case that I know of. Happily Never After covered the story. I thought they did a really good job covering the story. And one of the EMTs was annoyed by Randy's behavior. He said that while they were frantically working on Cindy, trying to save her life, Randy was making circles in the sand. And he answered questions with no emotion at all. Let's listen in.
Every hair on the back of my neck stood up.
So the detectives wanted to know what happened. And so Randy Roth, when asked what happened, said that they were on a romantic getaway when Cynthia suggested taking the raft further out. And they got out of the raft and they were frolicking in the water outside the raft when Cynthia caught a cramp in her leg. He tried to help her. He helped her to one side of the raft while he went to the other side to stabilize the raft. But then a boat came by and the heavy weight from the boat flipped the raft onto Cindy, and Cindy was found face down by the time he made it over to her. And so, of course, she was pronounced no more at the hospital, which was devastating to her sons. So the detectives in the real case are putting the pieces of this mystery together. It was apparent that there was a sinister side to Randy Roth. They investigated his background and found some troubling aspects. Now, the Seattle Times describes what detectives would later find out about Randy. They said that he liked single mothers. He'd woo them. The courtship was often short and intense. He'd provide them with flowers and candy and notes, promises of protection and security. And then, after the marriage, all of that would stop. And then he would try to get them to sign a life insurance policy. They said the relationship that burned so intensely seemed to flicker in almost all of his relationships. They found out that his first wife was a bank teller, single mom Donna Sanchez. And he divorced her, not the other way around like he told Cindy. Even more disturbing, in 1981, his second wife, Janice Miranda, passed away mysteriously during a romantic hiking trip at Beacon Rock. It was in a remote place. It was treacherous. All of a sudden, she plunges from a cliff. Now, notice the time frame. 10 years. 10 years after Janice Miranda's passing, the same thing happens to Cynthia. The manner is different, but they were both lured on a romantic getaway. Time frames are important. I noticed that things happen in cycles, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. The same thing will try to repeat in one's life. Randy Roth collected $100,000 from the life insurance policy on Janice. And Janice's daughter was still with him, so the biological father asked to get custody from him. The detectives who were investigating, the detectives, they're doing all of this background research, and the detectives from the Janice Miranda case told the detectives who were investigating Cynthia's case that they believed he pushed her, that they didn't have enough proof, and there were no witnesses. And the next day, or I should say by the next day, there was nothing left of Janice except ashes. Randy had done away with her quickly. So there was nothing to re-examine at any point to find evidence against him. So that was ruled an accident. Now, you'll notice some of the wording that I'm using has been crafted to keep this information family friendly. But I have secured some documents and links below for further reading. Am I providing value? If you think I'm providing value, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories. Now, Randy Roth's third wife was a convenience store clerk named Donna Clift. Now, in the movie, she was the one that came forward and tracked Lori down to tell her what happened to her, because she saw Cynthia Roth's passing in the newspaper. She told Lori in the movie that Randy had tried to do the same thing to her. So in real life, Donna Clift came forward. She told everybody that she packed her bags and divorced him because he had also lured her on a rafting excursion, and that she saw him trying to push her under. So she left. She left him. She saw that that was dangerous for her, and she got out of there. So there was a dangerous pattern with Randy Roth. Now, here's an interesting fact. Randy Roth's brother, former fugitive David Roth, ended a hitchhiker's life in 1977. Now, she was found lifeless by a couple picking berries in the woods. And the police were never able to identify her, so they have her listed, as a Jane Doe. So this was very interesting to me because, in my studies and studying true crime, a lot of times these things do have a tendency to run in families. Most of the time when something is a pattern in a family, you can trace it back, and it's happened before, and many times it's happened in the same way. So the Cynthia Roth case was a tough case to tie together, and there was a lack of physical evidence against him. But they had enough. They got enough. They had so many people testify at his trial. And even with the lack of physical evidence they had against him, they were able to hold him responsible, and they gave him 50 years. And it was the women's compelling testimony and Cindy's own words that sealed Randy Roth's fate. Now, in the movie, they showed her writing in her journal. I think in real life, it was an actual poem or a note. He's still serving.